Good evening. My name is Track, and I am the staff of the Transgender Equity Council. Before we begin, I'd like to note that this meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, due to the declared local health pandemic. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. Board meetings are public and subject to the Minnesota open meeting law. I will now call this meeting to order and call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum. So I'm going to call roll for the TEC members who have already been appointed by City Council. I know Camilla and May are newer folks whose appointments have not gone through yet, so I'm not calling you in roll for right now because you're not officially appointed yet.
Sure.
But so when I call your name, please just say here. Hunter Williams.
Here.
Nico Cruz.
Here.
Billy Kurek.
Here.
Ray Lockman.
Here.
Casey Pavis.
Here.
Ash Ray.
Here.
Melissa Berner.
Here.
Emma Gray.
Here.
Becca Sanborn.
Here.
Destiny Zhang.
Here.
There are 10 members present. Kenzie and Galen are both absent. We have a quorum, and we will proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. And Hunter, I will pass it to you to see if anyone has any edits to the agenda and then to ask for folks to adopt the agenda and minutes.
Thank you, Track. And so now, looking at the agenda, I'm wondering if someone would give a motion and a second for approving the agenda as it's written with revisions, as well as an accepting of the minutes from last month. And I know that Track did mention that it is on the LIMS system. So please do let us know if there's any discussion, any suggested revision before we vote to approve the agenda and minutes.
This is Billy. I motion to approve the agenda and the minutes from last week.
This is Emma. I second the motion.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm going to call roll again to vote on that. Hunter.
Yes.
Nico.
Yes.
Billy.
Yes.
Ray.
Yes.
KC.
Yes.
Ash.
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes.
Emma.
Yes.
Becca.
Yes.
And Destiny. Destiny, we may have lost you, or you may be on mute.
Yes, I was on mute, but yes to the.
Perfect. No worries. There are 10 in favor, none opposed, and 2 absent. The motion passes. And I know the next thing on the agenda was me giving updates on the Tdc recommendations. So I will just pass it to myself rather than passing it to you, Hunter, just to pass back to me. But the updates I will give to you all, we're trying to get in a regular practice of updating you all on where council members are at with the different recommendations that you all made last month, so we can see what work is moving forward. So in terms of housing, the things that have changed since last month, We saw a presentation from Katie, Katie, from Community Planning and Economic Development. Are we good on switching interpreters? Do you need a second?
We do need a second.
Yeah.
This is Megan speaking, so Hunter can find me. Hello, Hunter, can you see me?
Okay. Perfect. So you all saw a presentation pretty recently from Katie from Community Planning and Economic Development, or CPED as they abbreviate it, about a new potential ordinance called Tenant Opportunity to Purchase that would allow tenants the first chance, like the first choice to purchase their building when their landlord plans to sell it. And the update is that ordinance, last we heard, they had still gotten recommendations on potential language for that ordinance. They have now started drafting it, and it will be reviewed by a council committee in July. So we have a little bit until we're going to see a draft of that ordinance, but I will keep an eye on that and keep you all posted. The other thing in housing that I have an active update on is I know you all had given recommendations around non-discrimination content in the trainings that Regulatory Services gives to landlords. I have been meeting with them regularly, and we're working on drafting that content. Honestly, the biggest thing slowing it down right now is just my capacity, but we are working on that, and that's in progress. In terms of the recommendations you all gave that were kind of categorized under safety, so one of them was around getting the city to support banning the panic defense at the state level, since that's not a thing we can ban at the city level. There is a bill that was introduced at the state level that would ban the panic defense. The city has lobbyists who lobby at the state level for this, what we call the city's legislative agenda. And I worked with CVP Jenkins and Councilmember Cunningham's offices to amend the city's legislative agenda in support of the panic defense bill and in opposition to some of the transphobic bills around sports and bathrooms that have been proposed at the state level. One of the smaller recommendations in the safety category was just having more representation of trans and GNC people in the city's communications in terms of the photos used. One of the long-term projects communications has is to update their library of usable photos. When they do, they are going to add more stock photos of trans and GNC people, and I've sent them some stock photos to use. I'm going to pause there before I talk about the next two categories to see if anybody has any questions.
I have a question. I'm very interested in the housing bill. Could you send the information over to me so I could just read a little bit more about it? It seems very interesting.
Yes, this is Track. Thank you for that. I am going to
Actually, I interrupt, but this is Hunter. I just want to make sure everyone says their names before they talk. I don't know who just made that last comment because I can't see everyone at the same time while I'm seeing the interpreter. So just a friendly reminder.
I apologize, Hunter. This is Camilla. So K-A''Milla. I apologize, Hunter. This is my first time, and it's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you for the reminder, Hunter, and no worries. And yes, this is Track. Sorry. Yes, Camilla, when I send out the minutes from this meeting, I will link anything that I have a link for, so that you can look at the language that exists already and look on that work. Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any questions on the parts I've talked through so far?
Yeah, this is Hunter. I do. Regarding the panic defense, you said that you had a discussion with CVP Jenkins and Cunningham. Are they still working on the legislative agenda, or what kind of came of that? I might have missed that.
This is Track. I don't think I was clear on that. Thank you for clarifying. We have already updated the city's legislative agenda. So it's already updated for our lobbyists. That was a thing that had a quick turnaround and is finished.
Got it. So thank you. So that means that so it's been added to the legislative agenda for the city of Minneapolis. And will that impact the whole state or just the city then?
This is track. So the city has lobbyists who try to get state legislators to like adopt the things we support as a city. So the legislative agenda is what the city lobbyists use. Like it's their talking points. And so it will, if the state legislators listen to them, it will impact state level, but yeah, it is a city document meant to impact state level, but it requires people listening to us. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Perfect.
Sweet. Does anyone else have questions on this section?
I want to say thank you, Track. That's all. Oh, sorry, Hunter is Camilla, by the way.
This is track, totally. So the other two sections I want to give updates on. So in terms of your recommendations related to training, Destiny, I'm going to shout you out here. We'll still be overseeing HR's trans equity work and helping move the training forward, but has been promoted into a new role, but is holding the trans equity work anyway. And I also know that part of that trans equity work is distributing through HR a survey about like how everything managed by HR is serving trans employees and how it can be improved. And I also know that council member Palmisano, Palmisano, met with HR to just like voice her support of that survey getting distributed as well. And I know that the gender inclusivity training that you all had recommended, like we get it more broadly advertised. And Destiny obviously can speak more to this, but will be incorporated into HR's compliance programming to get greater participation. And then the other thing within training is the idea of getting requirements around trans equity put in the city's contracts with shelters and other social service orgs. And these requirements would make these organizations we're contracting with train their staff on a kind of Trans Equity 101. And the Ward 3 office, which is Councilmember Fletcher, FLETCHER, is working with finance on figuring out what it will look like to get those requirements into our contracts. And then the last category is bathrooms. The only update I have there is that I'm working with community planning and economic development staff, as well as staff from the Ward 11 office, which is Councilmember Schrader, SCHROEDER, about making sure that when businesses request building permits from the city, our staff like recommend to them that they create gender neutral bathrooms in the businesses they're building. And I've written a one-pager on why gender neutral bathrooms are a good idea that is theoretically going to go up on the community planning and economic development website. So that is all of the updates I have around the other TEC recommendations. Does anyone have questions on any of those pieces? This is track. If not,
Yeah.
oh, Hunter, were you saying something?
No, I was just going to say too, seeing none.
Yep, seeing none. Hunter, I will pass it to you to start reporting back from the meeting with the Office of Violence Prevention staff. And if there's any things you want me to add, feel free to pass it to me whenever you want.
Sounds great. All right. So yes, we had a meeting with OVP, the Office of Violence Prevention, last week. We met for about an hour and we talked about a lot of different things. I know there are lots of members of the trans community that have a hard time, you know, maybe expressing what needs to be said. And so it was really good to have this sit down opportunity with them, to have them understand kind of what we need. So TEC members were concerned about trauma and them not having any information about sex trafficking and what the data says. There's a lot of information missing from the data about, you know, how it impacts trans folks and Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC community. Secondly, and Track, did I miss anything with that? I mean, go ahead and just jump in if I'm missing anything. Otherwise, I can move on to the second point.
This is Track. Go ahead, and I'll jump in once you're done summarizing.
Sounds good. Okay, so the second thing is that the Office of Violence Prevention is developing a new staff position that is focused on, oh geez, what was that? Data collection.
Hunter, this is Track.
Yeah.
There's actually another staff position other than the data collection one that we should talk about too. Can I actually jump in and add one thing? I realized where you were going and there was something I wanted to add.
Yes, you know what? Please do. Go ahead. Absolutely.
Perfect. And interrupt me whenever. So I think adding to what Hunter said, I will also say that we, or specifically Shore, a former TEC co-chair, asked a lot of questions about whether they're collecting sexual orientation and gender identity data, and how they're kind of keeping and using this data long-term. And then we also asked some questions just about like how they can incorporate trans equity work within all of the different realms of the work they do. And I think the staff position that I had been referencing when I pulled this agenda together, although Hunt is right, they are adding a staff role to help support with their data as well, which will help them do that in a more thorough way. But they are hiring a staff role that will focus.
I'm just going to jump in too at the same time. I'm sorry about that one.
No, you're good. You're good.
So the person they're hiring about the data, it's good because historically there was a grant, and I think that grant is done, and so they have to reapply for the grant, and then they'll be able to sustain much longer. Often it's just been that, you know, if they don't get the grant, then there's not the support there that's needed. So I just wanted to add that piece, but please continue, Track.
Yes, thank you for that, Hunter. This is Track. So that position is happening, and then they also got funding to add a position that will be focused on responding to domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking. A lot of their work in the past has been funded by CDC, Centers for Disease Control grant, where they had to focus on like one of a couple options the CDC gave them. And so it's been very centered on like young boys and a heteronormative understanding of relationships when they talk about dating violence. But this year they're trying to expand their work outside of just like replicating CDC programming. And because they have this new position, funding for this new position, this can be a place where their work really expands and is more gender inclusive, is more sexuality inclusive, is even maybe centering more so queer and trans folks. And so what they offered to Hunta and Shore and I is that the TEC could help shape the job description or maybe the hiring process for this new position, so that we're making sure it's capturing what we want it to. There's no job description yet. There's like nothing to look at. This is literally in initial stages. So what I'm sharing with you is all they had to share with us is all there is. But the question, part of the question that Hunta and Shore and I wanted to bring back, and what this unclear like sub bullet on the agenda was supposed to mean, is would you all want to kind of like have someone from OVP come to a TEC meeting and brainstorm this job description as the whole TEC? Or are there just like a couple people who would want to be like some sort of advisory committee to help shape this, trying to figure out what is the most efficient and effective process to do that?
This is Camilla. I would love to be a part of something like that.
This is Hunta. It's nice that they asked us, you know, if we're interested, if anyone from the TEC was interested in the position as well. I mean, of course, it hasn't been out there yet, but it's nice that they're open and willing to have the dialogue and, you know, bring it to us. And I'm trying to think, is it, correct me if I'm wrong track, is it, who is it from OVP? What is the person's name? I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is track.
Or what was that person?
So the two people we met with and who presented to the TEC originally are Sasha, Sasha, and Erin, Erin. And then the person in charge of hiring for this role is Josh, Josh.
That's the one I was looking for, Josh. Thank you. So Josh had mentioned, right, that they could come and then we could ask questions as well, you know, to get a better understanding about that position.
This is track. I know Camilla is interested. My question for the rest of you all is, like, are enough folks interested that we would want Josh to come present to the whole TEC, or are there just a couple people who want to be part of shaping this position?
This is May. I have a question. Would it be easier to make that decision after we see the presentation and have more information to determine the amount of interest, or is that not how it's done? And if that's the case, that's fine. I'm just asking the question.
This is track. I appreciate that question. I think because they were like willing to have the TEC help shape even the initial job description, there's not really going to be more to see before starting this. So we are going off of just the fact that we know that this is a new role doing work related to domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking, and that they want the work to better include queer and trans folks, and that's really all we're going to have.
Yeah, and this is Hunta. I'll just add that the goal is to have more diversity as well, just in general. And of course, yes, to focus more on queer and trans folks as well, and to be thoughtful about that. but they also want to increase diversity as well. And they want it to be done pretty quickly, I think. So the goal would be, if they come, to have them come as soon as next month, because I think they really want to get going on this.
I would this is Camilla. The only thing I have to say is that I would love to be like connected to that person or like the information so I can figure it out. Because I'm
And
very
Camilla, I'm sorry, this is the interpreter Coco, and we're just actually switching interpreters. I'm sorry to ask you to hold your comment for 1 second, okay? And then to repeat it. All right, we are set to go. Thank you. Sorry about that, Camilla.
I know you definitely understand. I understand it. This is Camilla again. Hi, Hunter. I understand it. It's totally right. I'm super excited that they do this. It's amazing. Yeah, I would love to be like connected to that as much as possible. Because there's a lot of what my background is in, dealing with police interactions, sex working. I used to work on PAD, which is pre-arrest diversion. It's inside of Atlanta, Georgia. So I used to work with PAD, which is based off the LEAD program, which is based out of Seattle, Washington. The LEAD program was created for sex trafficking. Well, no, like basically to help people escape sex trafficking. And I know a lot about that and things of that nature. So I'm definitely interested. And that's it, my piece.
This is Track. Are there other folks who are interested or would just want this presentation at the next meeting so you can be involved? You can also put your name in the chat if that's easier. And this is Track. If not, Camilla, maybe I'll just follow up with you afterwards to help inform some of the next steps in this work. And then beyond that, we just also wanted to know if anyone had any questions for us about what Hunter and I reported back from the meeting, and if there are other next steps you want to see coming out of the TEC's relationship with OVP or other asks you have of OVP.
This is Hunter. I don't bark, so feel free to ask any questions.
Well, this is May. I don't have a question, but I do see there are people volunteering in the chat, so I don't want you to lose sight of that.
Ooh, this is Track. Thank you. My notifications were not working correctly. Okay, Casey and Melissa, I will get you plugged in as well.
Thank you for highlighting that. This is Camilla again. Thank you for highlighting that because I was like, okay, do Track see that? Because I know Track sometimes misses things, so it's okay. This is Camilla again. Track, you be so busy. It's okay.
This is Track. I'm especially curious if any of the folks who were on the TEC last fall when OVP originally presented have any other questions or thoughts or reflections, since this is kind of the like movement into next steps out of the many letters back and forth that came from that conversation. Totally fine if not, but if you have thoughts, I don't want them to get missed as we start to move into how to continue this relationship.
Sure, this is Ray. I don't want to put anyone on the spot since we're being recorded, so I guess I'll make it a statement that sounds like a really hopeful direction based on where we were last fall. So I'm thankful to the folks who really stuck with it. And I hope it felt to you like supportive and like we're headed in a good direction. So thank you.
Hi, this is Camilla again. I wanted to ask Ray, I think I know you, correct? Oh, once again, this is Camilla again. Sorry, I don't know if we can do that in the meeting. I was just speaking. I feel like I know Ray, that's all.
Camilla, this is Ray. Let's figure it out offline or out of the meeting. Yeah.
This is Track. Thank you for that, Ray, and thank you to everyone who has helped with the letter to OVP and with the other next steps. Does anyone else have anything else on this?
This is Hunta, and it seems no. Seems like we can go to the next item on our agenda. Do people feel ready?
This is May. I'm ready.
This Camilla.
All right. Great. Love it. Okay. So thank you. Now we want to move on to updates from the subcommittees. And I'm not sure exactly who wants to speak from the policies group. Who all is here?
I am here. This is Emma.
Anyone?
Here, but I'm not sure that I can give a great update. I believe I missed the last meeting, unfortunately, so.
And is there anyone else here? This is Hunter speaking. Is there anyone else here from the policy group?
This is Track. I'm also happy to just pull up the last minutes and give an update on behalf, if that's helpful.
This is Hunter, works for me.
Sweet. Okay, this is Track. We spent most of the time in the last policy meeting giving updates around some of the more specific details from the TEC presentation to City Council, sharing that the council members had positive feedback on the TEC presentation. Councilmember Cunningham, CVP, and Councilmember Ellison, ELLISON, all like shared feedback actively in the meeting. And I had gone into a little more detail on some of the updates that I went over also at the beginning of this meeting, so I won't go into that. But we did talk a little bit about if there's any policy-related content that we want to incorporate in the Trans Equity Summit, and about the idea of like connecting stories like the Stonewall Oral History Project that was done in 2019 to policy, and maybe holding some sort of workshop around that. And then Nadia, as well as JAE from Family Tree Clinic, brought up that another bill to follow in addition to the panic defense is a comprehensive sex ed bill that will hopefully happen at the state level. And I followed up with intergovernmental relations about it and haven't heard anything from them. So this is a useful reminder for me to follow up there again. But that is what I have from the last policy meeting. So does anyone have any questions before we pass it to the training subcommittee?
And this was Hunter just saying thank you, Track.
This is Track. If not, does anyone want to report back from training?
This is Destiny. I don't think I came late to that meeting, so I don't know if I have everything to be able to give a full report back.
This is track. That's fine. And I'm also happy. I have the minutes pulled up, so I'm happy to just give a quick summary if that's useful. But
Yes, please.
Totally. So, in terms of the city gender inclusivity training, as I mentioned earlier, it will be happening under HR's compliance work. Destiny is still leading it. HR a list of potential trainers, and HR staff have started to request or have started to draft a request for proposals that will go out for us to hire and contract with a trainer to lead that. One question we had from the training subcommittee meeting is, it is possible that we will need a review committee to review the proposals that come in from potential trainers. Is there anyone on the TEC who would be interested in serving on that review committee? If you are interested in applying to be that trainer, you cannot also serve on the review committee.
Hi, this is Emma. I would be interested.
And this is Hunter saying wonderful, wonderful.
This is track. Sweet. Thank you, Emma. If anyone else decides they're interested, feel free to also throw your name in the chat. And I swear I will see it eventually, even if I don't see it in the moment because my notifications aren't cooperating. The other updates from training is that the ASL Interpreter Training that the TEC has kind of been advocating for this happening. This is a trans and GNC competency training for ASL interpreters that Hunta and Lucian, Lucian, are actually the people we're contracted with to coordinate it, is happening this weekend. Yay, Hunta, and Neighborhood and Community Relations Department is helping fund that. So it starts tomorrow. And then the last thing we talked about in the training subcommittee is pulling together some very basic, like Trans 101, for lack of a better word, materials for staff that we really want to get trained immediately before the city even has started a contract with a trainer. Like some of the new outreach staff that have been hired to do outreach at encampments. And Ash has helped start that. And what Ash and I are working on now is pulling together some like relevant scenarios to put in that packet of materials that we're going to send them. And if there's anyone who's not on the training subcommittee but already has materials like that and would want to help contribute them, please say so now, or drop your name in the chat so we can connect you to that.
I'm a great resource. This is Camilla. I'm a great resource. So like you can always ask me. It's not like I do much, but yes.
This is track. Does anyone have any questions about the training subcommittee updates?
This is Hunter. Yes, actually something that did come to mind was the summit plan. I am interested in joining that. And I'm just wondering if there's any updates for us as we're preparing and getting closer, particularly also with the schedule for interpreters is what I'm thinking about. So I'm wondering about what's happening with the summit planning.
This is track. Hunter, you are jumping ahead on the agenda, but we will get there in 2 minutes and I will absolutely give that update.
You know.
Does anyone have anything else about training? And if not, we will jump into trans issues work group and then summit planning. I know that today is a lot of mostly updates and me talking, so thank you for your patience. This is track. If not, I am also giving the one giving the update from the trans issues work group. Not a ton to add there. We are still getting feedback from relevant organizations on the trans equity requirements that we're trying to put into city grants and contracts with shelters and other orgs. I'm hoping to start next week, like rewriting our initial draft requirements, incorporating all this feedback. And the other thing we're working on, as I said, Councilmember Fletcher's office is helping us figure out how to actually get this like institutionalized into our finance process such that it outlives just, you know, the person who's currently in charge of drafting contracts, leaving their job, making sure it remains there beyond anyone's time at the city. So I don't have any other immediate updates on that right now, although, as I've said in the past, if you know anyone who either works at or has worked at or has made use of the services of any local shelters who would want to give feedback on these requirements, please connect to me. We are still looking for more feedback, although we've gotten a bunch already, which has been really helpful. Does anyone have any questions on any of that? This is track. If not, I will go into summit planning and then I will finally be actually passing it back so I'm not talking. But a quick update from the first Trans Equity Summit planning meeting for the year. There is definitely going to be virtual components this year. If it will be, we don't know how much of it will be virtual. We will see about in-person programming. We are not trying to make the decision on whether any of that is safe or possible yet. Anything we do in person, it is our intention to also provide a virtual option of for accessibility. So we'll be figuring out a more hybrid and either primarily virtual or more hybrid version than we have in the past. We spent a lot of the Summit Planning Committee meeting talking about what structure makes the most sense. It does feel like we have enough programming at this point that we kind of need to commit to the summit always being multiple days because it is just too much to happen all on one day. Too many people, too many things to do, too much interest. We also debated the question of whether it would be easier to run 2 slightly smaller events per year than one big event, and whether that would better serve our purposes of connecting people to resources and community. I am pulling together, based on the conversation in the last Summit Planning Committee meeting, a proposal for next steps in terms of structure that I'm going to present at the next Summit Planning Committee meeting. But there was a lot of support to moving towards more of a like 2 events per year type of structure, which I understand was something that city staff thought about many years ago, but were never able to do. And we also made a commitment to like getting clearer about the different planning roles earlier on, so that we can distribute labor more clearly, just like having a more effective planning process, and bringing in more of the people who are involved in roles like leading workshops earlier on in the process, so that they can either like shape the planning or at least witness the planning and feel like they're more informed about all of the pieces. We do not have a date yet, Hunta, to answer that question because we need to kind of make a decision on multiple events per year versus one, and therefore that might shape whether the fall is one day or multi-day, but my goal is for us to make a final call on the date this month so that we will still have plenty of time to book preferred interpreters and do anything else that needs to happen way in advance and is relying on a date. Do folks have questions about where summit planning is at right now or about anything I just shared? And I'll pause first so we can switch interpreters before anyone shares questions.
And this is Megan. It looks like Hunter's looking for me. I'm speaking just so that Hunter can see me. Great. Good to go.
This is track. Awesome. Does anyone have questions on what I just shared? Destiny, it looked like you were about to jump in.
Yes, this is Destiny. Just a question, was there a discussion around what the theme would be this year, or the topic of, the main topic of discussion for the summit?
This is track. Excellent question. We did not get to that. That'll hopefully be an April agenda item.
This is Destiny again. Thank you.
Oh, this is Camilla. I would love to like help out as much as I can, summit and everything like that.
This is track. Camilla, I can send you the invites for the summit planning committee.
Thank you. This is Camilla again. Thank you.
This is track. The other question I wanted to pose to you all is what you want the TEC's role to be in the summit. We have a couple TEC folks on the summit planning committee. Thank you so much to those folks who were at the last meeting, and also if I missed anything in my summary, please jump in. But outside of contributing people to the summit planning committee, the summit can be a place to highlight the TEC's work, to advertise the opportunity to serve on the TEC, for the TEC to do outreach, either by tabling, quote unquote tabling, depending on what it looks like virtually, or a listening session. And I wanted to see if anyone had any thoughts. I know it's early. I know we don't have a theme yet. So if no one does, it's fine. But if anyone had any thoughts on how they'd want to see the TEC be a part of the summit.
Once again, this is Camilla. I feel like the president should be known, especially like with this being like, not new, but like, just to make sure that like it doesn't, fizzle out, because I want other trans people to be able to take my seat after me. So I would love for it, the TEC to like be a part of it as much as they can, and like table and stuff, and try to get printed materials and like, put some things in people's hands and stuff like that if possible. I don't know if the summit's gonna be in person this year or like what, or you said it's gonna be virtual. Okay, so yeah, like try to get like as much as materials that we can get out there publicly. So like maybe some videos, like some informational videos and things of that nature.
And this is Billy. I agree with Camilla. I think there definitely should be, we should be a visible presence. And I also think we talked a little bit in the last meeting about potentially having like a panel on like civic engagement. And I think that's important as the TEC to kind of maybe be a bridge for people in the community to get involved. Maybe the policy subcommittee can have a pamphlet or something. But I think the policy aspect of it and the civic engagement aspect, I think, can be pretty scary for people. So offering the TEC as like a welcoming environment where people can ask questions and kind of be involved, I think is maybe less scary than like go home and Google it. So that's my 2 cents.
This is Track. I appreciate that. And I want to even add, like, I think we've done a good job in the past, like explaining that the TEC exists and recruiting people to serve on the TEC. And I'm curious about the next step of like explaining what serving on an appointed board is like through your all's experience on the TEC, and also encouraging folks to apply for some of the city's other appointed boards that they might be interested in, with the intention of like getting more of a diversity of applications and perspectives at even more tables than just right here.
This is Billy again. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, maybe somebody attending the summit, could use it as a springboard to maybe join another council or get more involved. So definitely, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, hi, this is Camilla again, one more time. Um, I'm excited that it's gonna be so much media pushed out. So like that would be great. Like just push out as much as possible. YouTube and all of the things.
This is Track. Does anyone have anything else?
Oh, I also want to say thank you for backing me up. That's really nice. This is Camilla again. Thank you.
If not, Hunter, I will pass it to you to talk a little bit about some stuff going on a national landscape, although we know that the TEC cannot speak as the TEC to address things happening at other government levels. Nonetheless, you all can in your individual capacities, and Hunter wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of some of the things that were going on in other states, as well as in Minnesota on a state level. So Hunter, I will pass it to you.
Perfect. This is Hunter speaking. So yes, on a national level, we know there's a lot going on. It's pretty crazy. There's a lot of states, lot going on at the state levels, different states as well. Like you had mentioned, Track. On different social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have to fight for our trans youth. There's a lot of hot stuff that's happening today. For example, in the state of Pennsylvania, Texas, Missouri, North Dakota, I think, yes, North Dakota, I guess, or maybe South Dakota, Tennessee. Just in the past few hours, actually, Arkansas, there's been more added. They're starting, getting closer to a vote, and they they're voting against a SALT bill. It's HB 391. Hold on one second. I'm just looking at my notes here. So this is against trans athletes and not allowing trans athletes to be involved in sports. And this will affect a lot of people. So as yourself, if you can, if you don't mind, please reach out to all of the different representatives, the different levels in the different states to fight against that. We've got a lot of eyes on that, and we've got to take care of each other. This would hurt a lot of people if it goes through, a lot of youth, specifically trans youth. So please, do what you can to reach out to the different people, or, different stakeholders at the state levels, at any of those states that I just mentioned. Whatever you could do, however you could reach out, that would be great. And if you aren't sure, what that looks like, let me know. I know there are a lot of people, for example, deaf, blind, and hard of hearing people that just aren't familiar with what the bill is or what the different bills are and what it does. So I've been, trying to reach out to different people in the community to make sure that other people are aware of this. And it's just really, really tough for me. It's really hard to watch this happening all over our country. So I don't know, I'm kind of at a loss for words other than that, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of it. And yeah, does anyone else have anything to say or add? Any questions?
This is Camilla. First off, it's really sad. It actually made me want to cry. It's already hard enough being trans, but for people to want to write bills about us, and block us from things, and it's continuously blocking. I can't deal with that. That's it's hard, So I'm here to fight the good fight and things of that nature, especially for the trans youth, because they deserve to be fought for. But that's it.
I agree. Thanks for that, and I'll add to that. I know we cannot reach out, again, like Trek said, as the TEC. But we can reach out as ourselves, as a trans person in Minnesota. And so we have a lot of support as well. And there are a lot of, young trans youth here and older trans folks here. And it's really important that we are all there for each other. And it doesn't matter, what state you're in. It's important that, we help each other. I know there's different organizations too, Reclaim, that helps, does a lot of work with trans youth. But it's important that, we just, reduce the bullying and the different harassment that happens. And it's just, there's so much with everything that's happening with the trial, and there's just a lot going on right now. So I hope everyone's just taking care of themselves. Do you have anyone else want to add anything or have any questions?
This is Track. I will just thank you for sharing that. And I will put in the notes information about the different states where there are bills and where there are specific, I will pass on in the notes where there are bills and where there are specific ways to contact representatives, so that you have a written record of what Hunter just talked about. Please all take care of yourselves. I know that this is hard. That's all that I'll add.
Okay, great. Let's see here. I know I look on Twitter a lot. I get, there's a lot of updates on there about what's happening in each state. Yeah, oof, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, it says Louisiana already. So they've pre-filed. Oh wait, no, what does it say? yeah, pre-filed in Louisiana. So that means that they're going to probably talk about it or maybe vote on Monday. I don't know. But it's just, yeah, all kinds of things on Twitter. It's just popping up constantly. Florida, Arizona. It's just, yeah, I know they really want to pass that bill. So we've got to scream and do what we can. Write letters. I don't know, whatever works for you, whatever is your, preferred way of communication. I know a lot of us are really exhausted, but we've got to think about those trans youth. And how much we value them and their participation in society. So. All right. Track, should we move on?
Yep, totally.
All right, well, we have a presentation next by Camilla Harris. So if you just want to take it away, you have the floor.
Okay, perfect. I can't share the presentation, so if Track, you could share the presentation with the group, that would be perfect.
This is Track. Give me 1 second to get that successfully loaded. And I will. Okay.
And Hunter, this is Camilla. And it's called True Wealth Redistribution Awareness Proposal. And then there's a second part of it too. So if you guys, because I don't believe I'm gonna be able to do the full presentation today. So if you guys, I don't mean guys as in like, like gender folks. But if you guys would love to like know more about it, definitely look at my presentation. I shared it on my platforms already. I made history. This is beautiful. Like, it's on the City of Minneapolis website. It's in Limbs. Like, I'm super thankful. So, yes.
And this is Coco. I think that now is a good time for us to go ahead and switch interpreters right before you begin, Camila. So,
Thank you.
Hunter, are we good? And hello, Hunter.
And this is Track. I know that when I start screen sharing, you all have to repin. So. Go ahead and get yourselves set up. And then once you're good, Camilla, just let me know when you need me to move slides.
Okay, I will definitely. Thank you, Track, so much. You're so awesome. I'm thankful to be a part of this process. I'm thankful.
And I'm sorry, can you please hold on a second? We're not actually ready yet.
Okay, apologize.
Hunter says that he's not able to pin me. Can you see me?
Can Hunter see Coco? Oh, he can't see Coco because he can't pin.
Okay, we're good now.
Oh,
we're good now.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm thankful to be a part of this process. I'm thankful to be able to present this. I've been working on it for a little while. I sent over like an empty kind of proposal, but it was like finished, but it needed to be filled. So what TRAP could look like, True Wealth Redistribution Awareness Proposal, with Mother K and Carter, LLC. Camilla Carter Harris. I put my number there in my email. That's my business email. So you guys can always reach out to me there. I don't mean guys to gender, but yes. Could you click to the next slide, please? Okay. So I like to begin a lot of my presentations with a quote. And some of the quotes usually be my own quotes. And two wrongs don't make a right. I want to right the wrong that was wronged a long time ago. I'm here to provide clarity in as much as I humanly can. I have my likes and dislikes as well. And then I just tag my me. And yes, could you click the next slide for me, track, please? Okay. So this is the intro. To explain a little bit about the pictures that are there. This is a picture of Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill. She was supposed to be put on a $20 bill. I don't know what happened to it once that other man got in office. I don't know if they slowed up the process, but I am a Harriet's daughter. I was a part of a an organization, which I'm still a part of. I'm a member of in Atlanta, Georgia, called Women on the Rise. And they have a smaller cohort called Harriet's Daughters. So this just, brings happiness to me to be able to post Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill. She should be on a $20 bill. She should be on a $100 bill. She should be on a few other dollar bills. Who knows? And then I put some architecture because I really like architecture. I really like buildings. So young people talk about trap this and trap that. It got me to thinking, I be trapping in a good way. Then I said, there is a line in the sand for bad, but there is good and evil. Not bad or whatever the opposite is of bad. That's when the masterpiece of true wealth redistribution awareness proposals, soon to be wealth redistribution action project. So trap and rap was born. Boom. Right, could you click the next slide? Definitions. I like to start off with definitions. The reference to the picture in the back is pictures of dictionaries and encyclopedias and things of that nature. The X represents intersectionality, so I use a lot of X's in things that I do. Vice, immoral or wicked behavior, not to put a bad connotation on it. Vogues. So basically, I changed the name of what drugs should be, and using people first language. I changed it to vices of uses. Women with an X encompasses all women, including transgender. Men encompassing men with an X encompassing all men, including transgender. Safety using houses. In Denmark, they have fixed houses where they have brought their opioid crisis down to a zero, so nobody ODs in our country. So I think about doing that over here. So future spaces similar to Denmark, where they watch, study, and diagnose the person using VOs, keep them from overdosing. The Fed Bank, short for Federal Bank, WW Worldwide, and Black with an X. I mean Black and Brown Solidarity Movement. So I believe in a lot in Black and Brown movement. I'm a Black and Brown person, so I believe a lot in Black and Brown Solidarity Movement. Trey, could you click to the next slide, please? And thank you. Okay, I'm sure everybody's asking why is this needed? To right a wrong that was wrong a long time ago with the federal government signing on will protect the money and already being made selling cannabis, allow it to be put into federal banks right here stateside instead of people like continuously operating in cash with cannabis businesses. All across this country, there's like so many states going recreational, but it's so sad that they are like creating trans bills, but they're going recreational marijuana. So it's like, okay, are you trying to kick us out your state or whatever? But it's a situation that like the money is not being protected. So I feel that if the money is being protected and the federal government signs on to do all of this, they can finally start making some of the profit back. There's lots of tax revenue to be made in decriminalization of those. Track, could you click the next slide, please? Government units that will be needed. Electric fences, eventually laser fences. I know I'm so futuristic, but I like to think ahead. The CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I changed the name of the ATF. So ATFV, formerly known as the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and now VOs, which is vices of uses, once again, to let you know that. Armed forces, the Armed Forces Reserve, state sheriffs, city police, government constituents in the FDA, so the Federal Drug Administration. Could you click the next slide for me, please? Track, thank you. What each government unit will be doing. This is like page 1. I have 2 pages because I was very thorough and I wanted to really get all my thoughts out. The area for bowls to be produced and grown outside of the city, preferably the industrial area, like where coal is mined or electricity is being made. Electric fences, eventually laser fences. I don't know if this is something that's already like existing. I know they have electric fences, but honey, I want them to be a little bit different. Protect the sector in the area of purchased land, sight unseen, where votes are being purchased. Actually take the back. Where votes are being produced outside of the city in an industrial area. The CIA worked to bring the changes down on small amounts of votes in a combination with the FBI. FBI worked to bring changes down on small amounts of votes in a combination with the CIA and local law enforcement. The ATFV, formerly the ATF, oversee everything such as it does like now with tobacco and alcohol, create boards, committees, new jobs, everything. Work with local government and federal to set tax amount and allocations and where like the money will be going, like the expedited revenue or like, things of that nature. Armed forces watching over capital as such with the reserve and protecting the nation. So those are some of the things that what government units will be doing with TRAP in place and things of that nature. Could you click the next slide for me, Track, please? Okay. So this is page 2. Armed Forces Reserve will be protecting the capital. So be the ones overseeing the capital getting to DC as well as regional Fed banks. State sheriff, same job, protect your county, your state, oversee the project outside of the city as well. City police protect citizens, eventually go back to being peace officers, non-lethal and lethal force officers, be put on lethal force calls, eventually requiring psychology, like basic education and things of that nature. Government constituents, it shouldn't be up for debate. Votes are already being sold one way. Why not decriminalize them using amounts and criminalize and take bigger amounts, create businesses and paperwork for these new businesses, just like it is in cannabis legal states? Because as I was looking into this, like cannabis legal states, like eventually have to create this paperwork so they go to other states and act like what the paperwork looks like or things of that nature. The FVA, formerly the FDA. So I changed the name of the FDA to FVA, which is Federal Vices of Uses Administration. Just as they do now, create boards, new jobs, work with the ATFV, combine forces as well as share research, actively research using votes. This is the WRAP process, so Wealth Redistribution Action Project stage. So that's like the ending of the project. And that's, yes. So could you next slide? Thank you, Coco, so much. Let me know if I'm going too fast.
This is Track. Camilla, can I actually jump in just to say one thing real quickly?
Yes.
Sorry, it was hard to figure out how to unmute myself while screen sharing. So just saying, Camilla and I talked about this when she asked to present this to you all. Obviously, this is a proposal that is countrywide, which is not the TEC's jurisdiction. But she wanted to both like demo the proposal to you all to get feedback, and also this feels like an area where if the TEC had like suggestions related to this that you wanted to give city council about things that could be done on a Minneapolis specific level, maybe this would help inform or inspire some of that. I just realized that was context I meant to give at the beginning. And as you started talking about some of the federal pieces, I wanted to explain to folks, like, we know that this is a presentation that is not specifically about the city of Minneapolis, but it is an idea that a soon-to-be TEC member has created, would like to hear your feedback on, and that could maybe inspire some TEC work that would be more city specific. Sorry, I'll pass it back to you. I just had forgotten to say that initially.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Trag. Thank you so much. And even though it has like a federal focus, I want to create that we work out of silos. Right now, the federal government really doesn't work with states like they used to. I want to change that back to that we work with states again, and we continue to keep the door open with communication and everything like that, because in order for all of this to work, we all need to work together. So no kill zones, area aesthetic. So basically, what I've think about where the votes are being produced, there should be no kill zones. So no kill zones, this is where there will be votes are made specifically outside of the city. Cannabis can be city grown. I will discuss this more in like cities aesthetic. Who governs these zones by the chain of command, electric fences, eventually laser fences, local constituents, so like control taxes, make sure the zones are set up properly. Create a board for laws for this area so that like that's where the TEC could come in and things of that nature. I thought of everything. Sheriff, reserves, ATFV, FBI, and the CIA. So it kind of goes like, you know, the first line of defense and then the last line of defense. Thank you, Track. Click the next slide. Okay. Cities aesthetic with TRAP in place. Cities will run as similar as they do now, with healthcare fully expanded at a harm reduction model taken on federally. There will be an emphasis placed on ridding America of homelessness and creating a new health system similar to Denmark's and safety using houses for elimination of opioid overdosing, as well as researching and looking into how you can support sex work, federally give them a license and require them to get tested every 30 days. Majority of the tax money will go back into your listed on funds allocation slide, and the rest to the bigger pot to pull America out of the deficit as well as create wealth, health, and future technology. TRAP will be set in place like it should have already been there. Could you click the next slide, please? Interstate highways chain of command. So state sheriffs, reserves, and just like I said, that's the first line of defense is the top, and then the last line of defense is the last one. So it's state sheriffs, reserve, ATFV, FBI, and the CIA. Okay, city's chain of command as in protection. So it's police, of course. That's our first line of defense. Then it's sheriffs, which they protect the interstates and they protect the states. Then it's the reserve. The reserve protects okay. The reserve protects the capital and as well as like the Fed banks, and they act as well as they protect citizens too. Like if there's anything going on, like I don't know if anybody was staying in the area when like the reserve popped up last year after George Floyd and stuff, and when things were getting burned down, the reserve was on my block. So like I seen them. And this option is only used in like martial law and things like that when they enact martial law. Okay, could you click the next slide for me, Trek, please? Okay, so I like to add transition moments, moments of breath of fresh air in my proposals, because sometimes they be real, you know, very deep. So transition moments. Every woman has the right to become herself and do whatever she needs to do. Any die Franco. And could you click the next slide, Trek? Cities dispensaries, the sales, cannabis. And the reason why I talk a lot about cannabis is because that's the most easiest thing to like to convince to decriminalize at the moment. And that's where the wealth redistribution can really start because Black and Brown communities have been heavily affected by cannabis criminalization. So that's what made me think a lot more about it. So dispensaries in Minnesota would create program boards. State colleges should offer a degree. Work in the city local government, help people to turn it into a cannabis dispensary. Dispensaries in other states, so create program boards. State colleges should offer a degree. Work in the city local government, help people to turn like their profits and money that they have into cannabis dispensaries. So like you basically will be pushing out things like to have people start new businesses. I don't know if like states when they first sign on for cannabis, if they do that in Black and Brown communities, but I want that to change because I feel that Black and Brown communities should be allowed to have cannabis dispensaries. That's where they should start at because that's where they criminalized it at. Tech-based, so like pretty much like it is now, like they have weed maps and things like that. So when you expand beyond cannabis, like it should continuously be tech-based, websites and apps, health education material online and in person, and adopting harm reduction on the federal scale, starting with cannabis. The sales, so like other votes, tech-based only on apps, clubs as well, so like future planning. And then no vote houses and city limits at all. So like what people do now, like with TRAP, they won't be able to do that. Because basically the government will come in and illegalize that. So basically you have to take it out the city. So that's what the difference with TRAP and what people are doing now. Could you click the next slide, please, Trek? Thank you. Online security. This is where all the big tech giants will work together. So like the big ones like Google and Apple and Microsoft, like the platforms that people primarily use with all their information on it. This is where like we will really work all together to create more security. And this is like a lot of where my job possibly comes in at. To improve online security as it's improving now, continue to monitor electronic currency. It fluctuates too much. And create a forum of cyber police for each state. And I know people are like, more police, but no, it's not like that. We need people to protect our information, and I feel that there should be people watching over that at all times. I feel that if TRAP comes into place, there's going to be so much money being made that there's going to be more money being stolen. So we need someone to protect all that money, and we need someone to watch over that money. And I know people are like, no, we don't need more police. But what I see the cyber police being as is being like, they're developers, they're people who build websites and do tech stuff. They're not like real police officers. I'm gonna take that back. They are real police officers, but they're not like they wouldn't like carry a gun or anything because they have no need for that. They're catching people who do cyber crimes. So Trey, could you please click the next slide? Funds allocation in wealth, health, and future technology. Education, arts and media, future technology, city planning, municipal planning, space travel, infrastructure, the country's debt, of course, home buying. So like starting a first time home buyers program, like specifically for like the communities where you want the wealth to be redistributed. So that's a lot of the things. Help America to stop being so anti-Black and anti-brown. And like help us to buy houses too. And then wealth redistribution practices will be started. And just to highlight the picture in the back, this like of the stock market and like currency and stuff. So I like things like that. I put a lot of pictures. I love pictures. I feel that pictures like is 1,000 words within itself. Trey, could you click the next slide, please? Okay, funds allocation for health. Education on the personal health. More public education on health risks associated with those usage. Adopting healthcare across all states federally for every citizen. So, healthcare for all. Continuous checkup for those users once a year or twice a year. Care team for patients like me and beyond. Harm reduction model adopted across the board. I know I keep pushing harm reduction. I really feel like federal government definitely needs to take that on, especially if they're going to take on TRAP. Harm reduction needs to be taken on, and healthcare needs to be fully expanded across all states. Even the states that don't feel like they need to expand healthcare, they're going to have to expand healthcare because that's where the federal government comes in and steps in and make them do that. No more food deserts. Clean drinking water for everyone. Eliminating homelessness. Eliminating the tunnel that creates HIV and disease similar to fester and kill communities. And go paperless and electric. So continue with the paperless movement that we're going on, but still continuously keeping paper because I write on paper still. So don't get rid of all the paper now. But yeah. Could you click the next slide, track, please? Funds allocation for wealth. Education about wealth. Education about finances. Education about credit. Local classes taught by professionals on wealth rebuilding and how stock market works and property plays a big part and how property plays a big part in like wealth rebuilding and like building wealth and things of that nature. First time buyers, everything. Help with rebuilding of credit. Cancel half of student loan debt or all of it. Who knows? Like I feel like that should be like period for majority of people because like I'm thankful that they canceled some of my student loan debt. So I went down by like 30,000. So I'm thankful for that. Healthier earth plan. So I feel that the path that we're going on, earth is like gonna die very soon, like within my lifetime, or at least in the next generation's lifetime for real. Wealth redistribution practices actively. So expand on the next slide. So Strike, could you please click the next slide? So I can expand on it.
And actually,
And
Camilla, if
we-
you wouldn't mind just pausing for one moment as we switch
Okay.
interpreters.
Okay, perfect, Coco. Okay.
And we are set for you to continue.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Wealth redistribution. What is wealth redistribution? Income redistribution, a policy concerned with altering the pattern of the personal distribution of income. In an economy mainly with social rather than economical objectives in mind. The general aim of such a policy is to achieve a more equitable distribution of income as between the various sections of the community, so as to ensure that everybody is provided with some minimum standard of living. What is wealth redistribution practice? The transfer of income from one section of the community to another is achieved primarily by the use of progressive taxation system and a variety of welfare provisions, so subsidized housing, old age pensions, and etc. Examples: trap in creating new taxation codes. Could you click the next slide, please? Okay. Funds allocations for the future. Country's debt. And then I have a bibliography at the end of the PowerPoint, so you can go and look up all this information that I gathered because I was so interested that like the information just kept coming. So 2.3. So we are in a $2.3 trillion debt. All I can say is, oh my gosh, what can we do about it? Arts and media, add education for this back into schools, continue specialized education in arts and media as well as expand on it. Space travel, let's go to Mars and beyond. NASA, Tesla, SpaceX, because they're already working together. How cool. I think it's the coolest thing ever. I know a lot of people have their own personal issues with like Elon Musk and the things that come out of his mouth. Yes, he put his foot in his mouth a lot, but the man is like really smart. So like, let's just put that out there. And he's seen a dream that nobody else seen, and people laughed in his face about it. And now look at him. You know, it's just true story. Cars infrastructure. Let's be clear, we have some of the infrastructure, but not everything. So that means updating. So like highways, traffic lights, public transportation, LiDAR and radar sensors, camera technology, charging stations that incorporate hydrogen, electric, and eventually phase out gas. I don't know like how long that's gonna take for gas to be phased out in America or just across the world, period. But soon we're all gonna have to stop drilling for oil because it's like, killing the earth, and people know that. So yes, could you click the next slide, right, please? Funds allocation for the future. Okay, so I want to highlight the picture that's in the back of this. It's a picture of like a future Amtrak train. Amtrak wants to update, but they don't have the funds because Amtrak is owned by the federal government. A lot of people don't know that. The federal government owns Amtrak. So like whenever they get more money, they'll update Amtrak. So I think that Amtrak should be the first high-speed rails. It's not hard to update the rails. It's not hard to change the rails. We really shouldn't be building more trains. We should be updating the ones we already have. We already have Amtrak. Amtrak runs across this whole country, but nobody wants to like invest in Amtrak. So like with this project, I would want to really put a big investment into Amtrak so that we can have high-speed rails as well. So cut back on our usage of like airplanes and domestically a lot, so that we can clean our air a lot more because by us domestically flying a lot and not having high-speed rails, we like actually kind of like pollute America air a lot. Future technology, more electric car push, more electric charging stations, faster electric charging as they're working towards it, better battery technology, healthcare studies and buildings, so update Amtrak. Changing credit in this country. So first time home buyers program will expand. First time car buyer program will expand. Credit card systems extends all the branches to everyone. Because there's more money in the system. So now I'm not gonna go into all that about money in America because people don't want to know my spiel. municipal planning, infrastructure, street planning, zone planning, and laws. So changing the class systems. So like with this type of money coming into the system, it should already change class systems. But people at the top, so the 1% has been making more money. And then the people, so the 99% hasn't been making much. But what this would do would make sure that the 1% gets some of it, but not all of it. Or majority of it, shall I say. So like class systems would automatically change. So we would get rid of low class. There would be no such thing as poverty in this country, because we making so much money that there shouldn't be poverty in this country. Could you click the next slide, please? Changing class systems. So let's start by saying with this plan, I want to completely dispel homelessness from America completely. I was talking about like when I was thinking about this, it makes sense because other countries still have royalty, and I looked at a lot of countries and they're pretty much doing the same things we're doing, and they have royalty. So I know that like royalty people like sometimes don't have a lot of power, but they are there for the reason of what they are there for. So like royalty, billionaires, trillionaires, because people are moving into trillionaires. Let's be clear, Apple's a trillionaire company. They're the first ones. So like if we're getting up into the T's now, the country's debt has already been in the T's, but now people are getting into the T's. So it's time for us to do a different distribution project, because what it looks like to me is the 1% is continuously getting rich, and the 99% is being left at the bottom. Upper class, so millionaires to billionaires. Upper middle class, thousandaires to millionaires. Middle class, this is the heart of the country along with the working class. So this is like 100,000 plus a year people. So private insurance choice and public insurance choice. Working class, this is the blue collar group. So like baseline employees will be paid about $75,000 a year, including healthcare. So what I think about with this plan is what it would enact is that like all of this extra that be going on, it don't need to go on no more because we have the money now. Disabled and elderly and hard on their luck, mostly taken care of by the government, but the baseline of their life will improve, such as basic needs will be provided. As housing, food, and healthcare good. There will never be poverty and be below the line. Because like right now, personally, to be like all the way honest, I am technically a person who is in poverty. And that's sad, and I live in a country where there's billionaires and all of these things. These billionaires need to start helping and kicking in more. Like, I don't care what they're talking about. I don't care what they feel that they should and shouldn't do. They should. But with this plan, they'll have to kick in a little bit more. But like, this plan will actually kick in all the extra that is really needed. Could you click the next slide for me, Track, please?
Yeah, and this is Track. Just an FYI that we have probably like 2 more minutes and then I want to leave time for questions. So I'll go to the next slide, but if there's any last points you want to hit on before we wrap up, I wanted to give you a time warning.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Track. Thank you, Track. Okay, so perfect. Yes, click the next slide and then I'll do this slide and then close out and then encourage everyone to finish the PowerPoint, or I don't know. Yeah. The T in trap, which is true steps. So the T would basically happen before the wrapping session is. So the decriminalization of small amounts of those laws, revamp healthcare, adopt a harm reduction model on a federal scale, education to the public and businesses, public media, boards, legislation, local and federal, amendment decriminalization of those, a small amount, and help with the documentation. And that's the beginning of TRAP. I encourage everyone to read or look at the PowerPoint. It's really great. I put a lot of work and power and energy into it. It's so beautiful. It's something I totally came up with off the top of my head, because as we are decriminalizing cannabis, I don't see a lot of states actively participating in wealth redistribution, and they're still they're still, so let's be clear, there's states where they have decriminalized cannabis, but there's still people sitting in their state on charges of cannabis. So like, it's crazy, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. This would change all of that. Like, we would retroactively change things because America can do it. It's just that like things like this ain't been done in a long time. But yes, that's it. If anybody else has any questions, my information is listed on the PowerPoint. So you can definitely call me and ask any questions and want to know more about it. The PowerPoint is super long. I'm not gonna lie, it's like 57 slides, but it's good information. And the slides are very readable. I made sure that they're readable and accessible to everyone. And I made sure that like the wording is real big so everybody can see it. Only page that the wording is real small is the bibliography because I had to go I had a lot of sources. So thank you so much for letting me present this, and thank you guys for letting me be a part of like my first meeting and I'm able to present. We've all made history and I'm so glad that it's recorded. So this is so beautiful. And hopefully I can give the full presentation soon. And I want to get a full presentation in the state of Minnesota. But yes, that's it. If anybody has any questions, yes, because I don't want to see Minnesota fail. So that's my piece.
This is Hunter. I have a question, or it's not so much a question, but I just want to thank you so much for coming and for giving us context around this. We need this kind of context at the TEC. Yeah, it's a lot of information. And I'm wondering if there's some more data. You have a lot of data in there, but I'm wondering if you could add some data about the deaf, blind, and hard of hearing community and the deaf plus additional disabilities community in with some of your data.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
This is Camilla.
Yeah,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Okay, Hunter. I would love to connect with you with that because I'm not like I try to make things as accessible as I can. And I don't mean to forget people, but I apologize for that. So I would love to connect with you, or if you could send me some of the information if you can find it, and I'll add it in there and add a slide in there so that your community is represented because I know that deaf people identify as deaf before they identify as anything else. So I respect that. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Nice work. And we'll be in touch. Does anyone else have any questions for Camilla? Ask away.
This is track. I'll just say that I'm definitely going to go through this slower at some point. Like, as you said, I know a lot of this is state and mostly federal things, but when you were speaking specifically about like ways that health education can be improved and things like that, I think there are things from that could be pulled into future TEC recommendations. So I will at some point take a look when I can to see what can inform. It will definitely not capture the whole proposal, but if there's things that are like little steps of what you talked about that could be TEC recommendations, even if they don't speak to the whole proposal, because they could be City of Minneapolis relevant. Like, obviously, the whole scale of what you're talking about fits together, and some of the health education is important, even if the city doesn't have jurisdiction over some of the other pieces.
Correct. Thank you, Trek. You were awesome too. And yes. Like I definitely like looked at everything. Like I looked at like a city scale, and I looked at like the larger scale as well because I noticed that the federal government still hasn't signed on, and that's troubling for a lot of these cannabis business owners because their money is not FDIC protected. And if I would have got to the end of it, like some of the figures that they've made already is like they made $3 billion last year on cannabis sales alone, almost $3 billion on all the states. And this is Camilla once again. And to highlight one more thing, the state of Michigan was in a deficit. They legalized cannabis. Do you know they're out of their deficit? They have surplus. Just FYI. That's all. And one more thing, this is Camilla one more time. They have a surplus of like I want to say it was like $100 million, like $100 million, but then they had more, like extra more.
All right. Do we have any other questions for Camilla before we wrap? Thank you so much, Camilla, for coming and for sharing that with us. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Y'all are.
Go ahead, Camilla.
Yes, this is Camilla. Everyone is so welcome. I would love to give the full presentation, so that like everyone can hear it. And just I'm gonna figure out like what I can share and not share, because like I don't know if like the federal government may even like classify the whole information. Who knows? Because like eventually that's who I want to present it to. So like a panel of like federal appointed people and stuff. Just some people that probably can do some moving and some shaking. So maybe I may need to go to Congress.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to contact Camilla directly. Remember, Camilla said their information is on the PowerPoint. And if people just have some more information, take a look. I know that the PowerPoint will be posted and ready, so you can read it at your leisure and then reach out to Camilla if you have any other questions. So with that, we can probably close if anyone doesn't have any last comments.
This is Camilla one more time. Can y'all share it? Share it as much as possible, please. Share it. Share it to y'all other council members. All of that. Push it out, please. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. You got it. You got it. Definitely. Definitely. All right. So thank you all. I appreciate you all. Have a good night. Have a beautiful weekend. Let's get it.